Today on the PitchBook Podcast, we have relief pitcher Tony Child pitching U2 by Dr. Bryce Pritchett. Batter up!
Tony, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
So we're so excited to have you today. I thought maybe as we kind of get into the book that you're going to pitch today, U2, maybe you could tell us a little bit about where you started. When you and I first got to know each other, you worked in the banking industry. And then about 10 years ago, you made this jump, which in my mind, I work in finance. And usually in finance, you work your way up. You either build your book or build your clients. And you just continue down that path because it would be too painful to start over somewhere else. But you made this decision to just do something totally different. And I remember at the time, I'm like, okay, man, he's jumping off the cliff. He's going for it, which I always think it's awesome.
He's lost it. What are we going to do?
So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Great question. My history is kind of full. It really does start. It starts way beyond, when I was starting whatever I was going to do in life. We all have dreams when we're kids, and mine, like any little boy, was to be a professional athlete. As I was in, grade school, I wanted to be a professional football player until I got clobbered, and then it turned to basketball until I figured I was too short, and then it was just golf. I'll be a professional golfer because anybody can do that. And thank you.
Anyways, anybody that's ever played golf will love that for sure.
Yeah. So easy.
Anybody play golf? So easy. But anyways, I wanted to be a professional athlete, and all my educators and parents and coaches told me that was an idiotic thing to even think about. And so I was really good at math. And in high school and in college, I took the highest maths. And so it was like, hey, you need to go and do something with your math skills. But I was also really good at speaking. I was that little kid, if you're from Utah, that would like get up at the beginning of the church service on the first Sunday of every month where anybody can get up and take the mic. Yeah, my little 5-year-old self would walk myself up there, and you never knew what was going to come out of my mouth. But I had that mic and it was going, and I just wasn't ever afraid.
Tony, sit down, Tony.
Yeah, exactly. Come here. What is he going to say? I never got yanked. I never got pulled. You never knew what was going to come out of my mouth. So I just really enjoyed speaking, and I've never been afraid of it. And the number one fear, by the way, on the planet is not spiders or death or heights. It's public speaking. And I never had that fear. Maybe it's because we were asked to keep doing it, when we were younger. And so anyways, I went into school. After school, I started my banking career and worked my way up through the banking career. And I was always doing things that like people thought were absolutely insane. I would apply for jobs that people were like, you don't have experience. Why are you applying for that? And then I'd get it. They're like, how did you get that? You don't have the experience. You don't have the degrees. You don't have the education. It was like, because I applied.
You got the looks.
So I've always been
the
really
looks.
I got the looks, right? I got the looks. So I was always really driven. I would always be really, really driven as I wanted to kind of work my way up in the banking world. And by 35, I was really dubbed the next executive in the bank, meaning, executive vice president. And I really had a desire. I want to be the CEO of the bank one day. I want to run it all. And I was on my way. I was on the track. Like I had multiple people telling me like, hey, Tony, you're on the track. Like you will be a CEO one day. And for me, that was super exciting. And then as I worked my way up, I was in different workshops and seminars. They'd send me to different places to get information to come back and teach my regions and teach my managers. And there was one workshop I went to. It was out of Harvard. Based on the book, The Happiness Advantage. We won't pitch that today, but it's a great book. And I remember the instructor, the very first thing that she said when I walked into the room, and I was there with my boss, and she said, if you change the way you see things, then the things you see will change. I was so freaking cynical. I laughed out loud. I turned to my boss. I said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Can I please go? And she said, if you want to be fired. So I was like, okay, I'll stay. And I stayed like with my arms folded, and I was so mad. I was so like, why am I even here? In a positivity workshop, mad and angry, negative.
Right.
But then they started showing me the science. And it was like study after study and research after research that when you change your lens from negative or neutral to positive, like outward things dramatically change. It was like, no, that can't happen. And then they do another study. It was like, what? And then they do another one. And within 30 minutes, I was like hook, line, and sinker. And it was like, all right, I'm in. I got to learn this. I got to learn all there is to know about the mind, conscious, subconscious beliefs. I got to know it all. And so I changed everything. I changed my degrees in college. I was a semester away from getting all my finance degrees, totally bagged it, and went into public speaking, a speaking degree with an emphasis in psychology. And then I left the bank. I left the bank completely and jumped and created a whole new course in life. I was doing great in the bank, obviously, as a senior leader. I was well into the six figures as income, dropped it, left it. I had every holiday off, weekends off, home by 5.
What's that like going from, like, I'm just curious, but going from a place of security, a clear path that other people have walked, and you're doing well, and then you just kind of start from zero. Did your passion there was just so much passion there that like the income will happen eventually?
Yes, and I wanted to puke my guts out.
Okay.
Like, guys, like this was like when you go from massive security to no security, your body will freak out. And my body, like multiple nights, was heaving. Like I would throw up at nights, like multiple nights in a row. My body was not having anything to do with this change that I was just making in my life. And anytime you're going to go out of a safety and into something that seems unsafe, your body is going to push back and say, no, don't want to do this. This is not safe. And what it's saying is it's not familiar. It's not saying it's not safe. It's just your body saying, I don't like this. It's not familiar. Like, I'll have you guys do this. Okay. And if you're listening, do this. If you're driving your car, don't do this. Other than that, if you're listening, do this. So I want you to fold your arms. So go ahead, guys, fold your arms. When you fold your arms, is your right arm over your left arm or your left arm over your right arm? Matt, left arm over right over
yep.
left over right. Zach,
left over right.
Left over right. Okay, now on the count of 3, you're going to fold your arms the opposite way. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, fold your arms the opposite way.
Okay, I don't even know if I know if I know how to.
Just grab your other bicep, Matt.
It's right over left. So just think of that, right over left.
Oh,
okay?
It's so weird.
Yeah, it's awkward.
Okay,
for sure.
now hold it there. While you're holding it, describe, Matt, how do you feel? Describe your feeling right now.
It's just awkward. It's uncomfortable.
Okay, and your brain's screaming at you to do one thing, Zach. What's your brain screaming at you to do?
Rewrap my hands the other way. Like change.
Go back.
Go back.
So go back. Fold your arms the other way. Go back. How's that feel?
Comfortable.
Perfect.
It's nice.
Did you just made it, Matt? You just did the
Yep.
It feels so good.
Yep.
Oh no, what that is familiar. So you have a mechanism in your brain that anything you're going to do something that's not familiar. That mechanism in your brain saying, I don't like this. Go back. This is wrong. This is bad. This is not good. And you have that mechanism in your brain. You just experienced it. And people use that in life to determine life decisions. So when you're going after something that's unfamiliar, your brain is going to do the same thing, but times 1,000. That's what my brain was doing to me. And I knew it though. So the thing is, I was aware of it. Right. And I was like, yeah, I know I'm not familiar with this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm safe. I'm good. And I did it anyway. But that's the thing I want you to notice is just that thing in the brain that says like, no, go back. And then because people that mistake, here's the mistake people make. You guys ready for it? When they're doing something that is unfamiliar and their brain is screaming at them that this is wrong and that this is weird and that I can't believe you would do this, they automatically make a decision about the thing they're about to do.
Yeah.
That the thing they're about to do must be what?
Wrong.
Yeah. Because my body wouldn't be telling me this. And they mistake it because their body's just saying, no, it's not familiar. But they mistake it as, oh, that must be wrong. So they go back. They go back to what's safe. They go back to their bed. They go back to their job. They go back to what's safe. And then what feeling do they get?
Comfort.
And what do they mistake that feeling for?
It's
the
right.
feeling of, that must be right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
Comfort.
That's called stuck. That's called stuck. People stay stuck. When people say, man, I feel so stuck in life, it's like, okay, go take a risk. The reason why you feel stuck is because every time you get out to the ragged edges of your comfort zone where you want to puke, you go back. You don't jump. Have you guys ever seen the episode of oh man, Indiana Jones? Harrison Ford. You guys Indiana Jones fans?
All of them. Yeah, of course.
Okay. You remember the episode, the movie Indiana Jones, when you got Sean Connery in the other room and he's, he's like unsafe and Harrison Ford, Indiana's trying to get to him, and he gets to this big chasm. Do you guys remember this scene? He gets to this big chasm and he can't figure out, like, how am I supposed to get over to the other side? How am I supposed to do this? And then he says, oh, I get what's happening. And he says something. You guys remember what he says? It's been maybe a long time, but he says something in that moment. This is a leap of faith. And then he closes his eyes and he picks up his leg and then he just drops it. And he finds that, oh, there's a path I couldn't see. I couldn't see where I was at. There was a path. And that's the thing that happens with most people, is they can't see the nets and the path. So they think that it's wrong. And it's like, no, just take a leap. I promise there's a net there. I promise there is. So anyways,
so you made
the story of where I got to is taking those leaps.
Well, and I hope that people check out your website, your company, what you do, Keep Elevated, because you've gone from just nothing, from feeling like you're going to throw up at night. How am I going to provide? Because you've got kids, you're married. It's not like you're single, just YOLO, I'll do whatever I want, but you've got responsibility,
no risk,
people depending on you to put food on the table. And now you're coaching retired NFL Olympians. I mean, you've made your way inside of 10 years. And it's so awesome to kind of watch that. So before the recording, I like to put out the list of books I read every year. And usually it'll be like 24 or 30 books. And people will text me and say, okay, what were your top two? So I like to ask people, and I like to learn what their top 25 books are. And I'm curious about this book. This was not your number one. So maybe we're going to have to do 5 episodes where we work our way.
This was my number 5, by the way. This was not my number 1.
So for those listening, we're going to have Tony back 4 more times.
Number 5, U squared. All right. Tony, tell us about U squared. Number 5.
So U squared. U squared. You can see how big this book is. Like, for those that are watching, if you're listening, it's like it's a pamphlet. It literally looks like a pamphlet. You could read the book in 45 minutes, even if you read slow. And so it's a powerful, powerful book on human transformation. It's written by a human psychologist that he does organizational behavior. He's got a doctorate in it. He teaches Fortune 100 companies. That's Dr. Price Pritchett. And he wrote this book. And the title of the book is called U squared. Now, for those that know math, whenever you square something or you have that little number that's above the big number, the little number is called an exponent. And there's a difference between exponents and multiplication or even adding. And the exponent is where you get like exponentially good, not just gradually good or incrementally good, but exponentially good. And so this whole book, the premise of the book is, how do I make an exponential change in my life? Not an incremental change, exponential. How do I make what he titles a quantum leap? Now, in physics, if you study physics, particles can take quantum leaps. And if a particle makes a quantum leap, it jumps from one plane of existence to another plane, several planes higher, in 1 second, in 1 instant, in it, like not even a second, in just an instant, boom, boom. And can humans do the same? If humans are just particles, that's what we are, can we go from one plane of existence to a whole different plane of existence right now? And it's mind bending, by the way, for a lot of people. You and I, we had a little chat before we started this little thing, and this is mind bending stuff. This is not stuff for the faint of heart. For me, I was super cynical, very logical, and this completely hit my logic, because I was like, no way, can't happen. This is just complete foo-foo and woo-woo, until I started studying the science. And there's actual science behind everything I teach. And it's scientifically driven that humans can go from one plane of existence to another in one shot. I did it in the bank and I didn't know what I was doing. I was going from teller to banker to manager to this to that. And I was making these huge quantum leaps. And everybody was looking at me like, how are you doing this? I didn't know how I was doing it. I had no idea. I was just making these quantum leaps. Now I teach people how I do it, like how I did it, because it's an actual science behind it. And that's how I did it, moving from banking to coaching. You know, people are like, how did you do it? You moved from 6-figure income in banking and in 2 years created 7 figures in coaching. How did you do that? Applying the principles. That's how I did it. And anybody can do it. You just have to, there's certain principles that are taught in this book and many, many other books of how do I actually make these leaps? How do I U square myself? That's the title of the book, U squared, U exponent. How do I make that exponential change? That's the premise of the book.
So in the beginning of the book, you talked a little bit about, before we started recording, about the story about the fly. Could you maybe just share
I'm going to preface the story. I'm going to just preface the story.
Okay.
Have you all been in a room? Because I could read the story, but it'll take like 5 minutes, and I don't want to take that much time from you today. So, have you guys ever been in a room and you see a fly that like is like pounding itself up against the window? Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you look at this fly and you're like, huh, what's that fly trying to do? What is the fly trying to do? What's the goal of the fly?
Get away. Get out of there.
Get outside. That's its goal. It's like, I want to be out there and I'm in here. How do I get out there? And it has one strategy. And the strategy you can see based on where it's going and what it's doing. It just keeps boom, 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 boom. And it's hitting its head up against the window thinking, if I flap my wings harder, if I go faster, if I try harder, that I'm going to get a breakthrough. I'm going to break through that glass. Now, the sad story is this: that fly's going to die on the windowsill, because that strategy will never work. Not in this instant, not saying it will never work, but in this instant, never going to work unless it gets help. Like, I could throw a baseball through the window and then, yeah, it could get through, but it needs dramatic help. On itself, by itself, never going to break through that glass. But the story has another ending to it. And it says this: across the room, 10 steps away, is an open door. 10 seconds of flying time, and this little creature could reach the outside world it seeks with only a fraction of the effort now being wasted. It would be free of this self-imposed trap. Why doesn't the fly try another approach? Something dramatically different. Why? Because he got so locked in that trying harder was the solution. And my point is this: guys, gals, anybody that's out there listening, you all have breakthroughs you're searching for in life. And I'm telling you right now that there is glass right in front of you, and your strategy of trying harder isn't going to be the solution to achieving more. Because there are open windows and open doors all over the place if you will just step back, reassess your strategy, and not just reassess your strategy, reassess all of your beliefs. The beliefs you hold about money making, the beliefs you hold about success, the beliefs you hold about how do I get ahead in life? All of those beliefs that, by the way, you inherited from parents, well-meaning parents, that were probably broke or that were probably not as rich as you'd like to be. And so you inherited all these strategies that, quite frankly, could be keeping you stuck. And until you're willing to reassess them, your strategy is simple. I just got to work harder than the next person. And that's not a very smart strategy. So that's the premise of the story of the fly: is there's open doors and open windows everywhere. Are you equipped enough to stand back and say, okay, where are they? There's got to be an easier way of doing this than my strategy of working harder.
So for somebody that is, I mean, you hear that, and I think 97%, let's say, of people are going to say, yeah, that's me. I'm stuck. I'm like, as hard as I work, I get that 3% raise, 5% raise, whatever it is. If you have the open mind to just back away from the windowsill, what have you found to be the best guide for people to find the exit, so to speak? Like, is it a coach? Is it a new skill? Is it education? Is it writing down your top 10 favorite things you like to do? What do you find is a successful path for people to be creative about a different path?
Okay, that's a great question.
I know I'm getting
away
from the book now a little bit.
No, this is awesome. I love it.
I'm curious.
I'm going to just share things I didn't share previous. We hadn't talked before here, and so I'm going to just share new things. It's fascinating because to answer that question of what are the strategies, I'm going to use GPS. Okay, so when does a GPS work? Like, first of all, what's the purpose of GPS? Y'all have maps in your car, Waze in your car, Apple Maps, Google Maps. Y'all have it, right? What's the purpose of it?
To get you to your destination, where you're going,
or to show you where you are.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's to either show me where I want to go, give me the directions on where I want to go, or tell me where I am. That's the point of GPS. It will tell you where you are, or it will tell you where you want to go, and it will only tell you where you want to go if you put an address in it. If you never put an address into GPS, it will only tell you where you are. You move a mile, it'll tell you where you are. You move 10 miles, it'll tell you where you are. And a lot of people, they have a GPS that they never put an address in. So it just keeps telling them where they are. And then people, they'll put an address in they already know how to get to. And that's a whole nother where it's like, yeah, take me home. It's like, you already know how to go home, but take me home. Okay, I'll take you home. And you go down the same roads. You already know how to do it. So you don't even need the GPS because you know it. You don't even look at it. It's like, I know how to get home. Screw this GPS thing. I'm going to know how to get home. Or you've lived in Utah so long that it's off of Bangor. It's off of this. It's like, oh yeah. Okay. I know how to get there. I don't need to use the GPS. I know how to get there. There's your way. And then there's the fastest way. Now, every time I leave any destination, no matter what, I will put my next destination into Waze. Why? Anywhere I leave in Utah, even though I know how to get there, I will always put my destination into Waze anytime I get in my car. Why?
Traffic.
Because it's taking into consideration traffic patterns and closed roads and, accidents. It's taking into consideration everything, and it will populate the fastest route possible. And you can put any address in there, and you can trust that it will take you right to where it is that you want to go. So to answer your question, how do I do this? First of all, you got to give an address. Like, that's the first thing. If you don't have an outside, then you'll stay right where you are because your brain loves homeostasis. It doesn't want to get out of familiar. It loves the fact that you're safe in your bed. It does not want to get out of bed. It loves it. Okay, so you stay safe in bed. So when I give an address and it's like, no, I don't want to, I want to go there. Here's the cool thing. If you trust the GPS, it will tell you where you need to go as fast as humanly possible. And have you ever, and this is an honest question, have you ever put an address into GPS that you knew how to get there and the GPS gave you a different way of going and you ignored it? Have you ever done that?
Yeah. I only do that.
Okay. So you put it in and then it's like, I know better than Siri. Yeah. Come on. I know better. And then you get into the traffic. You're like, dang it, I should have listened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me give you an experience I had. I was in Spanish Fork one day and I needed to get home to Saratoga Springs. That's where I live. And I was in Spanish Fork. And for those that are national listeners, it's probably a good 30-minute drive from where I'm at. And it's really only one shot. It's a freeway. You go up the freeway, up I-15, and you get off the freeway and you go home. Okay, so I'm driving up the freeway and I'm by Provo. I'm like 20 exits away from my exit. Okay, and I'm by Provo and my GPS says get off in Orem. And I'm like, why would I get off in Orem? It wants me to go east. My home's west. Why would I do that? So I ignored it. I kept driving. And next exit, get off. And I was like, you know what? This is going to be a good lesson someday. So I'm going to actually follow this. And so I just followed it. Anywhere Siri told me to turn, I turned. And I went all the way up to Canyon Road. Do you guys know where Canyon Road is? It is the furthest east road you can possibly get to before you hit the mountains. And I live the furthest west you could possibly get to before you hit the mountains.
Yep.
And it was like, why am I going up here? So I get up on Canyon Road. I go north all the way up to the highway. It's the Alpine Highway that will connect you in with the major corridor. And I'm like driving up Alpine Highway, and then I see it. There's a tanker that had like totally fallen over, lost all of its oil all over the freeway, and the freeway shut down for 8 hours. I don't know if you remember this day. It was like 5 years ago. Freeway shut down for 8 hours. And I got home in 30 minutes. It was an extra 5 minutes is what it added to my commute. Extra 5 minutes. And my point is this. Our habits, our beliefs get in our way of our intuition. There's open doors and open windows everywhere, and they're called first impressions. And we don't follow them very well. We don't follow our first impressions very well. We'll get these ideas, we'll get these impressions, we'll get these nudges, we'll get these pings. It's like, hey, here's another way. And it's like, nope, doing it my way. Hey, there's another way over here. Nope, doing it my way. And so here's what I found in life. There's a higher way and there's my way. And most people ignore the open doors and open windows because they want to do it their way. So to answer your question, how do I get to a higher way? Meditation.
Okay.
Get out of your own head. Meditation is where you stop thought, or you're able to move thought, and you're able to see thought, and you're able to be the thing that looks at thought. And so meditation is a way for you to get out of own thought and into a higher thought. And you can see open doors and open windows, prayer, meditation, yoga, mindfulness, gratitude, all of those practices. It's allowing me to get out of my own space and into a higher space.
So that's clearing the mind.
That's the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a quote by Warren Buffett that I think about where he says, and I'm going to butcher this, but if you look at the most successful people, they're very good at saying no. They just clear their schedule. They have a lot of time. Naval Ravikant talks about that as well, of just not doing meetings, not saying yes all the time. And I think, to your point, it's to clear your mind, to give yourself time to think and to let your mind wander a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Warren Buffett said this. Warren Buffett, and by the way, on average, how much time does Warren Buffett spend every day reading, pondering, thinking, writing? How much time every day? Do you guys know?
Oh, it's insane. He reads, well, I don't know if he still keeps this same level, but it's like 400 or 500 pages a day. I mean, it's a book a day.
400 to 500 pages a day, 8 to 10 hours a day. He reads, ponders, thinks, writes 8 to 10 hours a day. Why does he do that? To get into new thoughts. There's got to be a higher way, easier way. He's not using his time working, like efforting. He's using his time clearing. What's a inspired way? There's a faster way here. What is the inspired way? And he uses 8 to 10 hours a day doing it. And then he said this, and this is an actual quote that he shared. He said, "You want to know how you get where I'm at?" And there is a big stack of books on his desk, and he points to the stack of books. He said, "Read 425 pages out of those books every day." And then he said this: "All of you can do it. Very few of you will do it." Pretty good advice from one of the richest men in the world.
Yeah.
All of you can do it. Very few of you will do it.
Okay. And he knows a lot about squaring things, multiplying.
Let's get nice segue there. All right. So
nice segue.
Tell us a little bit. I mean, obviously this book is kind of all about this. What's kind of the one thing that you really like or you apply? You mentioned that you do read this book quite often when you're traveling. What are some of the things that you, or give us a top 1 or 2 things that you like about the book or principles?
Yeah. So here, I'm just going to read off some of the chapters. Chapters are 2 pages, by the way. So this is not a hard book. It's not a long book. They're 2 pages every chapter. So here's some of the chapter headings. This will give you a good taste of what's the book about. Change your personal rules for success. Quit trying harder. Ignore conventional approaches. Think beyond what common sense would allow. Suspend disbelief. Focus on ends rather than means. Rely on the unseen forces. Choose a different set of risks. Trust in the power of pursuit. Seek failure. I mean, these are like, oh, wow, that's pretty crazy ideas. So I'm just going to like flip to a page. So I'm just flipping to a page. Didn't even think, and it says focus on the ends rather than the means. I'm just going to go to one paragraph. A quantum leap is the unexpected that comes to you with the sudden grace. You can open yourself to such a breakthrough. You can even invite it in, but you can't make it happen by struggling harder or insisting on first developing the perfect plan. U squared is achieved through an intuitive, instinctive discovery process based on a sense of direction and pursuit. If you have all the answers and structure and certainty up front, it's not a quantum leap. That was 2 paragraphs. I just opened it up, said, here's 2 paragraphs of this. And it's like, that's insane. Every paragraph's like that. So good.
What's the one thing that you've maybe really tried to apply to your life? Can you think of one thing that really stands out for you that you personally applied?
Yeah, for me, it's rely on the unseen forces. And here's the, like, again, I don't want to like make this be a religious podcast or a spiritual podcast. Everyone's got their own philosophy of life, their own North Star, whether it's, hey, I believe in God, I believe in source, I believe in an infinite intelligence, I believe in universal, your universe, universal laws. Some people don't believe in anything, which is fine. It's like, but most human beings, most believe in something. There's something greater out there. And here's what I believe. There's a power greater out there that when you tap into it, it's amazing things can happen, and it's unseen. And a lot of it's, we have to walk in faith. We have to walk knowing that these unseen powers will help me. I think it was Bob Proctor. I worked with Bob Proctor for many years. If you don't know who he is, he's the old guy in The Secret. I worked with him side by side for like 8 years before he died. And he used to always say this: both faith and fear demand that you believe in something that you cannot see, but you believe to be true. Both faith and fear demand that you believe in something that you cannot see, but you believe to be true. Most people live in fear, imagining all the worst possible things that can happen. And very few people imagine all the best things that can happen, and relying on those unseen powers. So what's the greatest lesson I've learned from this book and really every other book is that there are unseen powers. And when I learn how to access them and harness them, life is beautiful. Life is amazing. And you can have, and you can create amazing things in life. I believe that human beings were given the power to have dominion over all things, not pets. Pets weren't given that power. Trees weren't given that power. Horses weren't given that power, but humans were. And do we believe that? Do we truly believe that we were given a power over all things, dominion over all things, control over all things, sovereignty over all things, responsibility over all things? Because if we believed that, then it means all things. Not everything but your income, not everything but your relationship, not everything but your house, not everything but, it's all things. Most people just don't believe it.
What do you rate the book? We go base hit, second, double, triple. What do you rate this?
So I would rate it probably a home run. It's not a grand slam. My top book's a grand slam.
Okay.
My top 2 books probably grand slams. This is 5.
That's
a good home run.
That's
good,
a tease.
Solid home
That's
run.
a tease for the next time you're on. Little number 1. So good old fashioned home run.
Yes.
I love that. So let me just kind of summarize what we talked about a little bit, at least my version. This is the game. This is a new segment here, Zach. This is the game summary. Are you ready for this?
Bring it. Yeah.
The game summary is just because you're uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong. So pick some goals that are outside of your comfort, way outside your comfort zone. Take that Indiana Jones leap of faith. Believe in a power that's unseen, that you'll be able to find a way to do it. And what I like the most probably is that the fly didn't just quit flapping its wings. It just went a different direction. So I like the fact that there's work in there as well. So that's my game summary for kind of what you talked about, and obviously the book, and that the book's probably all about that. So short little book. Tony, we really appreciate having you on here. So great to have you on. We'll have you on next time for number 1 potentially.
And where can people find you, Tony, if they want to get a hold of you, engage your business, get coaching?
keepelevated.com.
Okay.
That's website keepelevated.com. Great videos on there, great content. I teach all over the valley. If you're here in Utah, I do webinars all over the nation. I do speak all over the place. So come, if this intrigued you, come to a workshop, come to a seminar, learn more about how do I do this, because you can.
Yep.
So
Keepelevated.com. Tony Child, we really appreciate having you on here on the Pittsburgh podcast. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you next time.